And okay, so recording's going. I'm going to go ahead and bring up my screen share, and then we can get going. All right, so by way of introduction, I'm Nat Carmichael. I'm the director of the AANA Foundation. I'm here with Jeremy Stanley, who's the president of CRNA Financial Planning, and also an AANA Foundation trustee who's on our board. So Jeremy, I'd like to, if you'd like to, say anything about yourself or give your self-introduction, you're welcome to do so.
Sure. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. And Nat, I'm actually privileged to be on the board with some wonderful CRNAs. I am the only non-CRNA currently that sits on the AANA Foundation board. So I definitely bring a different perspective to the board, and appreciate all our colleagues that give their time to make things happen for CRNAs all across the country. And a little bit about me, I have been a financial planner now for 20 plus years. And throughout that time period, I've worked with CRNAs my whole entire career. And I actually ended up marrying a CRNA. So I'm married to a CRNA. So I tell people I eat, sleep, live, and breathe CRNA, because I really do. The name of our company is CRNA Financial Planning. We also have a sister company called CRNA Tax Associates. I also co-host a podcast called Beyond the Mask with Sharon Pierce, and we talk about all kinds of things dealing with CRNAs, from political matters to what happens in the OR to mental health. You name it, we've done it. We've got about 180 episodes, so if you guys haven't heard of that, check us out there. And tonight, we're going to be doing some basic financial planning and hopefully give you a few tips and ideas. I usually do this. Hey, thanks, Jesse. Recognize your voice. I usually do a presentation very similar to this to a lot of schools around the country, and they give us between 2 and 3 hours to do it. So we're really going to condense some of the topics that I typically would talk about to students tonight, but we'll kind of give you a little taste and hopefully give you something you can use in your own situation. And Nat, that's really all I'm going to say about me.
All right, excellent. Just a little bit of background on me. I've been with the AANA Foundation for about 17 years. My role has changed, quite a bit over that time. But I do work a lot with foundation donors to help them give to the foundation, and also on the programmatic side to make sure that we can give as much out as possible, from those donations. So let's go ahead and start by telling you a little bit about what the foundation is, and kind of what we do. We were founded in 1981, so we celebrated our 40th anniversary just last year. But at that time, the AANA found a need to have a nonprofit affiliate that would support education and research as it related to nurse anesthesia. So in front of you here, you can see our core values, mission, and vision. And the most important thing is that the mission of the foundation is to advance the science of anesthesia through education and research. And so we are that charitable arm of the AANA. And we raise our money to support projects that directly support the nurse anesthesia profession, both CRNAs and SRNAs. So we have our vision here as well, which is to serve as the leading source for assuring safe anesthesia care through education and research. So moving along, we do have a nice sized board. These are all very talented individuals, and Jeremy, as we mentioned, is one. But here just to point out a couple of key individuals here, we've got Stephen Fender, who is this year's foundation chair. Lorraine Jordan is the AANA Foundation's CEO, and she wears many other hats with the AANA, most notably Chief Research Officer. And so she's instrumental in handling a lot of the research side for the AANA. So moving along, let's go ahead and take a look at budgeting. Jeremy, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, and this is where we get into the fun stuff. This is what, when I'm talking to all types of our clients, when I start to bring up the B word, you would have think I said an ugly word to them. Nobody wants to budget. Nobody likes to budget. And what I find is that as people make more money, the less and less budgeting they do. Right now, for most of you, you're probably in a situation where you're not making a lot of money or any money, and you're having to budget. So, I want to touch a little bit on this today. And again, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's, what do I have coming in? What do I have going out? But, it's a great time in your life to get used to budgeting. And I always recommend clients use either mint.com or even just tracking their income flows and their outflows through an Excel spreadsheet, because you really do need to know where your money's going each month. And, right now you're on a very fixed budget, I'm sure. And you need to evaluate those fixed expenses versus those variable expenses. A fixed expense is something that reoccurs every single month, just like clockwork. And those variable expenses are where we see a lot of people spend a lot of excess money. That might be going out and going to the movies now that we can go to the movies again. It might be taking a vacation, going out to a concert, doing things that are going to vary from month to month. Groceries are a variable, even though we all have to eat. Um, Housing costs is one of our biggest expense. It doesn't matter at what stage of life you're in. Typically people spend more on housing than they do on most things. So, there's some ideas there, if you could live closer to school, having a roommate. Obviously, at this point in your life, you're probably not buying anything, so you're probably renting, or you bought it before you went back to school. And I always, ask people this little joke. My oldest daughter says I tell a lot of dad jokes. But do you guys know which brand of car you can buy without going over budget? Nat, do you know?
I do not know. I'm dying to find out.
Come on, does anybody know? Let's see if anybody show up in the chat.
A pair of shoes.
A pair of shoes. Okay. No, it's a Ford.
Ford.
Get it? A Ford. That's the kind of car to buy, what you can afford. But don't go out and try to buy a new vehicle right before you start at school. I mean, and doing things like that are probably not smart things to do, especially in the stage of career you're in right now. Buying used vehicles, even using public transportation, are probably smarter ideas. I mean, budgeting is not hard, but I find in what I do, it's one of the toughest things for people to do and do it consistently. Um, so make sure, number one, that you have a budget. Again, just what's coming in, what's going out. If nothing's coming in and you're living off of student loans, I get it. We have a lot of students that do that, and we'll talk about student loans in a little bit. But that'll be one thing. Now, if you'll go to the next slide. All right. Again, learning to be frugal, eating out sparingly, especially today. And if you go out to eat, I mean, it's expensive to eat out right now. Not buying the hottest technology, upgrading your phone every year to a new iPhone, or I'm a Google guy, so new Google phone. Not taking vacations, and one of the biggest things that I see, a lot of SRNAs doing is utilizing their credit card for living expenses. Now, sometimes you've got to do that. I get it, but minimize that as much as you possibly can. And you got to remember, where you're at in the stage of life, it isn't forever, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And guess what? It's not a train. You're going to make it through this. You're going to have a great career. You're going to make good money. You're not going to make Warren Buffett money, but you're going to make more than probably 90% of Americans are out there. You're going to have a wonderful career. But there's things you got to do along the way to get there. And the first is making sure to establish a good, fundamental, sound budget plan to get you through school in this part of life. All right, Nat? The other thing we want to talk about is debt. And probably a lot of you are going to come out with a little bit of debt. We used to see students come out with somewhere between $75,000 and $100,000 in debt out of anesthesia school. And now we're seeing most students come out between 200 and 250. And that has jumped up dramatically. I think there's a lot of reasons that go into that, probably beyond the scope of what we're going to talk about tonight. But one of the things that you need to pay attention to as well along the way is your credit score. I don't know how many of you check your credit score. You can go to Credit Karma or annual report, yeah, excuse me, annualcreditreport.com and check it for free. And you should be doing that every few months. We had a situation, this has been several years ago, where this guy was a CRNA and he went to apply for a mortgage loan. And he got denied because his credit was bad. And he said, "What do you mean my credit's bad? And I'm not really had anything bad." Well, evidently during anesthesia school, he had an episode where he drank a little too much, and actually hit his head. They had to call an ambulance to come pick him up, and took him to the hospital. Well, he had moved right after that episode and did not get the bill from the ambulance, and he never paid it. So they filed that against his credit report, and he didn't know it. It was like $1,500, $2,000. And they had charged that off. So he actually had a charge off. But if he'd have been checking his credit report, he would have found that out and known that and would have saved himself a lot of hassle. So, good credit usually start somewhere at that 670 mark, is where you want to be. Closer to 700 is better, and the maximum you can get on your credit is 850. So checking your credit report, staying on top of that. I mean, you're all smart people. You're all going to make really good money. These are just kind of fundamental, what I call blocks and tackles, making sure that you're taking care of the things that ultimately will take care of you later on in life. And remember, those negative reports stay on there for 7 years. Positive reports stay on there for 10 years. And you can always appeal anything on your credit report. It doesn't mean they're going to take it off, but you can appeal it and they'll make a note on there. And if it really is an error, they will take it off. But making sure that you're managing that side of the debt equation is very smart and things you should be doing at this stage. All right, Nat. Student loans. I imagine a lot of you are sitting there going, yes, thank you. I have them. Scott, I see you smiling. I know you do there, right? And like I said, we've seen the average student loan balance go up dramatically, in the last few years. But one of the things I always say is that student loan debt is not bad debt. It's really good debt because it's getting you to a place in life where you can earn a really solid amount of money and have a wonderful career. So it's good debt. But even good debt, you can utilize it too much, which goes back to the budgeting and staying on top of budgeting every month and not living off your student loans to do frivolous things. I did have a situation where this was a few years back, where this young lady had been in school, and I mean, she was living it up. She was driving a Mercedes. She was using her student loan money to pay for the Mercedes. She lived in a really nice apartment. She would go on vacations that I might go on at my stage in career. I mean, she'd drop $3, $4, $5,000 on vacations, and she came out with over $300,000 in student loan debt. I mean, it was the craziest scenario I'd ever seen. But you want to use them sparingly, and when you get out, we want you to try and pay them off aggressively. You can consider refinancing or consolidating, and there's a few names up there of companies that do that, and you'll learn a lot more about them as you get to graduation. And there's different types of repayment plans. You can do an income-driven repayment plan, but for most of you, because your incomes are going to be fairly high, the income-driven repayment plan is not going to matter to you. Then there's the public service loan forgiveness, which I'll touch on a little bit more because I've gotten a lot of questions about that in the last few years. And I'll explain that a little bit more and what that means to you. And then, the extended repayment plans can cost you a lot of money. Does anybody know what the average loan repayment is for a federal student loan? It's 10 years. Okay. So you're on a 10-year payment plan. But if you consolidate, you can drag that out all the way out to 30 years. 30-year repayment plan. Okay. Remember those numbers because I'm going to talk about it in just a minute when we talk about that public service loan forgiveness. And then, you know, what we're seeing more and more these days is when students are graduating, because there's such demand out there for CRNAs, there are a lot of employers that are offering loan repayment assistance. And that's something to consider as a perk. And it's okay to ask about that, especially in this environment when you're graduating and you're interviewing. Do you offer a loan repayment assistance plan? And we're seeing a lot of employers do that, and that can make a huge difference for you. One thing to remember, and I've had a student that graduated and got caught up in this, is if they're giving you that money, that is taxable money. She actually thought that that was going to be tax-free money and it was going straight to the loans when it actually wasn't. So another thing, a little caveat to be aware of. All right, Nat. So now, and Nat, you'll have to advance here in just a minute. So we're going to be talking about here kind of what we call the debt snowball. And this is really my definition of a credit card over here. It means for buying something you don't need at a price you can't afford with money you don't have. And if you think about that, right now, you guys aren't making a lot of money. So you're having to rely on that credit card, not necessarily for things you don't need, but it's probably money that you don't have or money that you might have later on. So this just gives you just a really quick example, and I made this pretty simplistic just for illustrative purposes. So now if you'll go ahead and hit it one more time. All right. So here, what I did is this particular CRNA had $100,000 in student loan debt. Her interest rate was 4.5% on that, and the monthly payment was $1,000. She had a credit card of 8,000 at 10%, a credit card at 6,000 at 11, and then she had a mortgage of $225,000 at 3.5%, paying $1,500 a month. And her goal really was to be debt free. So she said, what do I need to do to be debt free? So we worked through her budget, that ugly budget word, and we looked at everything. And I said, okay, based on this, I need you to give me 2 extra shifts a month. So 2 extra shifts for her was about $1,500. So I said, you're going to work 2 extra shifts. That extra $1,500 is going to go to your debt. Now, so what we did is first and foremost, we picked off the 2 credit cards. So first we picked off the card with the highest interest rate, $6,000, 11%. We took that extra $1,500, the $100 she was already paying, and in 4 months we had that card paid off. Then we took that $1,600, we went to the credit card 2. Now we're paying $1,750 a month to credit card 2. In 5 months, it's gone. Then we went to the student loans. We took that $1,750 plus the $1,000, $2,750. In 36 months, those student loans were paid off. So in a matter of 45 months, we had paid off $114,000 by 2 shifts a month. But her goal wasn't just to be credit card free of debt. It wasn't to be student loan free. She wanted to be free of debt. And so next thing we did is we took all that money and we applied it to the mortgage, and in 53 months, the mortgage was gone. So I don't know what the average age is here, but for this particular individual, she graduated in her 20s. So by her early 30s, she was completely debt free. Now, I will tell you that there's a big difference between having to go to work and wanting to go to work. It's a massive difference. And it opens up a lot of opportunities for you if you're not saddled with debt. So this can work in a lot of situations. This isn't the only one. And again, this is pretty simplistic, but there are people with more complicated. I had one young lady who graduated with almost $200,000 in student loan debt. And we'll talk about 1099 here in just a few minutes, but she took a 1099 position and she lived well below her means. And do you know, within 2 years, we had all of that debt paid off, every bit of it. So it depends on what your goal is, and it depends on what you want. All right, Nat, if you'll advance us here. So in 8 years, she was completely debt free. All right, go ahead, Nat. All right, so the student loan forgiveness program, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about this. You know, it has changed over the years. It's typically been very tough to qualify for. They've done some things to kind of tweak the plan now. But one thing to know is that you have to go to work for a nonprofit. Okay. That could be the government, or it could be a facility that is set up as a 501c3 nonprofit. You have to pay your directly held student loans for 120 qualifying monthly payments. You cannot have been late on those payments. And you have to repay those payments either under an income driven repayment plan, which again, for you guys, you make too much money, so it's not going to help you. You have to work full time. And if you do that after 120 months, guess what they do? They forgive your student loans. Wonderful deal, right? But what did I say just a little while ago? How long are you supposed to pay for student loans? 10 years. Thank you, Scott. Well, how many months are in 10 years? 120 months, right? Wow. Okay. So you're saying, well, what's the trick here? What's the little caveat? What's the dig here? Well, one thing you could do is you could consolidate these loans. Remember, I said that earlier. You can do a consolidation loan. And again, it has to be direct consolidation. It can't be third party. It can't be a bank or, you know, another financial institution. You pay those payments for 120 months, but how long did I say you could spread out a consolidation loan? 30 years. So there's the trick. But the question becomes is, do you want to deal with this for 10 years? Are you going to stay working for a nonprofit for 10 years? And you really do have to plan for this, because if you don't, so be it. It's over. You really get that shot of 120 payments, not being late, working full time, and we don't know what life's going to give us. What if you can't work full time? What if you have some sort of medical situation where you can't work full time? What if one of your children gets sick or your spouse gets sick? I mean, I've lived through these scenarios. So I'm not a big fan of this because I don't think people can count on it. I'm a big fan of let's plan to pay this debt off. Okay. So, yes, it's out there, understand it. Again, it's not something that, you know, I see used a lot. I've had a few people try to do it. And in fact, I don't know that we've ever had one person get to the end and get any money forgiven. But again, it's out there. Make sure you're aware of it. If it's something that you just have this burning desire, I'm going to work for a nonprofit, and I know I'm going to do this, and I'm not going to be late. I'm going to work full time, and I can do this for 10 years. And yes, you will save some money, but you're still going to pay part of it back. Okay. So again, that's all I'm going to talk about that, Nat. So we'll go on to some what I consider funner topics. So here, you know, probably all of you have an old retirement plan. And right now, how much money are you making? Just kind of the people I can see, how much you making? Scott's making, Brittany's making, Caitlin, what are you making? Yep, zero. Okay. All right. It says M Ross, but I don't know what the M is, but I see you there. All right, Joseph, zero. Right. So for all of you out there earning zero, if you have an old retirement plan, I want to give you an idea here. All right. Daniel, big zero. Got it. So if you've got an old retirement plan, you probably can convert that to a Roth. And you say, why would I want to do that? So let me just explain a Roth really quickly. So a Roth IRA is money that you put in after tax, you let it grow tax deferred, and then when you pull it out, it comes out tax free. So the sizzle behind that is if you convert $20,000 and it grows to $400,000, you paid tax on $20,000, and now you can pull $400,000 out tax free. Pretty good deal, right? So with the conversion, the way it works, let's say you've got an old retirement plan at Fidelity when you were a nurse, you've got 10, 12, 15, 20,000, whatever you've got in there. And we want to do this conversion strategy. Well, basically because you're making zero income. Now, if you're married, this is a little different scenario, and I'll kind of touch on that in just a minute. But you basically roll over your retirement plan to a traditional IRA, and then you convert the IRA to a Roth IRA. And you see, I put up there the standard deduction, $12,950. All right, so that means that you can convert $12,950 and pay zero tax. So if you're in school for 3 years, then over that 3-year period, you should be able to get at a minimum $20,000 to $30,000 converted. All right, now think about this, because when you worked, you put that money in there pre-tax. We're going to do the conversion, and because you're in this much money and you're in the zero tax bracket, you're going to convert it at zero, and then you're going to let it grow. And when you pull it out, you're going to pay zero tax on it. So that money effectively, you've paid no tax on. It's grown tax deferred, and you're going to pull it out tax free. It's a beautiful plan. Beautiful plan. All right. So now, if you convert too much and you're over that 12,950 single or 25,900 married filing joint, then you do have to pay the tax at the time of conversion. So this is going to be an equation that you've got to work out for your particular self and particular situation. But if you're single and you're making zero money and you've got $20,000, $25,000 sitting in an old retirement plan, you need to do this. You need to do it. Okay. And I find that a lot of students don't know about this, and they don't do it their first year, and then they wait their second year, and then they graduate their third year, and then they start making money. So they haven't had the opportunity to do this all along the way, but you could have done it over that whole time period. So again, most of you are going to make too much money in the future to ever contribute to a Roth IRA. You might be able to contribute to a Roth 401k or a backdoor Roth, which we can talk about later. But anyway, this is just a strategy that you can utilize as a student that you're probably never going to have the opportunity to do again. All right. All right, Nat. Something else I'm seeing a lot of, and I mentioned earlier, we do a lot of tax work for CRNAs. We have a tax planning firm that works with 1099 CRNAs mainly. And we're starting to see a ton of students get opportunities right out of school working 1099. And it used to be, I've been doing this for 20 plus years, and I'll answer that. What if you're married in the notes, Matt? So, but it used to be that you had to work for 5, 6, 7 years before you'd even consider doing a 1099 position. Well, that has changed. And now we're seeing new grads get offers at 1099. And remember, I said earlier, this is a way, and I'm not telling you to do this. I'm just giving you some ideas that you can really pay off your debt quickly and establish yourself quickly. Because the average 1099 CRNA right now is making somewhere between 270 to 320 a year, compared to the average W-2 out there that is making somewhere between 170 and 190. It's a lot of money. You need to understand it, because there's pros and cons to working 1099. I know the money sounds really good, but there are pros and cons. But there's things you've got to consider, as you get out and you're evaluating job opportunities, 1099 versus W-2. So one of the things that you're going to have to consider is, what do I do for benefits? Because if you're 1099, you have no benefits at all. They're all on you. Your health insurance, your disability, your retirement plan. You don't get paid vacation. You take vacation, you pay yourself. And what are the associated costs with figuring all that up? And I'm going to do a real simplistic calculation here in just a minute. One of the real benefits of being 1099 is that, there are some tax benefits. You can have potential business write-offs. If you need a new computer to keep up with your 1099 assignments, guess what? The business pays for that. You can deduct it. There are payroll tax considerations, though, because remember, if you're working W-2, your employer matches your FICA tax, that's 7.65%, up to $147,000. So what's that worth? Well, that's worth $10,000 or $11,000 there. So we got to bank that into the equation. And then what is What is the match on the retirement plan where I'm going to go to work? And you've got to bank that into the equation. And right now, about 14% of CRNAs are currently working as independent contractors. Maybe not full time, maybe part time, maybe doing some side gigs, but that's about where we see it coming out right now. All right, Nat. All right. So, like I said, there are pros and cons. So, the pros of being 1099, and my wife, who's a CRNA, she works 1099 as well, and I encourage her to do that. One reason is she makes a higher hourly rate, a substantially higher hourly rate. Scheduling flexibility. We have two small kids who she likes to be home for when they're out of school in the summer. She likes to be here at Christmas time when they're here. So she plans her schedule around that. She works typically anywhere from 3 days, 4 days a week up until about June. She takes June, July, and August off, goes back in September, works until December, takes December off, goes back in January. That's kind of her schedule. You have the potential to save a lot more for retirement. Again, that's beyond the scope of what I want to talk about tonight, but I mean a lot more. So we get seasoned CRNAs who have gotten behind the eight ball saving for retirement, and they go 1099 because they can save so much more money to get them where they want to be. All right. And then, like I said, potential business expense tax deductions. I'll give you a real quick one. We got a lot of CRNAs who are travelers. They might buy an RV, travel in the RV, live in the RV, go to work in the RV. And guess what? That $180,000 RV they bought, we can expense it all off and do that as a business deduction. So there's just neat things like that you can potentially do. The other thing that I think that probably doesn't apply to any CRNA I know, and I know probably doesn't apply to any SRNAs, is control. CRNAs hate control. They don't want to be in control. I'm sure you guys are the same way, right? Yeah, I see a couple smiles. It gives you more control of your schedule, control of your income, and control of where you work. My wife works at a particular facility sometimes, and she really doesn't like it, and so she comes home the other day. I said, well, just don't go back. You don't have to go there. You're 1099. Don't go there. Anesthesiologists don't help. They're understaffed. Why go there? So, that's a great benefit of being 1099. But W-2, you've got consistent work and pay. I remember in 2008 and even in COVID last couple of years when CRNAs there was no work. And a lot of CRNAs got scared that we're doing 1099, tried to go back to get W-2 positions. The W-2 people were pretty solid in their work and they were good to go. They got employer provided benefits, be it health insurance, which is one of the things 1099, is always a big question mark. And then it's easy. You don't have to worry about running your own business or finding jobs or working through agencies or different surgeons and different places to go. So all those things kind of add up to, a little more consistency. And remember, you don't have to give up your W-2 position to do this. You can do this part-time. All right, now one more slide, and then I'm going to turn it back over to you. I just want to give you a real quick example, and I referenced this earlier. So you've got to calculate what that hourly equivalent W-2 is compared to 1099. So here I just did a simplistic example, 162, 240 salary. So that's $78 an hour. And then we calculated that at 4% 401k match. And, I basically came up to $64.89 a year. And then I divided that by 2,080 hours, which is a full-time work position. It came up to $312 an hour. Health insurance, disability, malpractice. They had 3 weeks of PTO and then their FICA match. So their total hourly equivalent was $96.80. That was all in. Well, this particular CRNA at this time got an hourly rate of $150 doing 1099. So even when we worked backwards and said, okay, what's it going to cost us to implement health insurance and all the stuff that goes on, she still came out better by doing 1099. You need to do this for your particular situation and break these numbers down. What is the actual cost? Is it better for me to go W-2 or 1099 if you get that type of offer or you even exploring that? And again, I'm not advocating either way. I just want you to be aware of the opportunities out there as you're planning your future. All right, Nat, I think I'm done for now.
Thanks, Jeremy. A lot of really good information. And for anyone oh wait, you got one more slide. You want to cover this
Oh,
one
I
too?
forgot about this
We're
slide.
not done.
Oh man, look, I was right on my time too, Nat. I'm sorry.
Sorry,
All right.
no
Well,
worries.
here what I did, just to give you an example, and I won't get into details too much here, but W-2 versus 1099 from a tax perspective. You can look on the left, and this is full W-2, and we've got them throwing $20,000 in their retirement plan. They didn't itemize, got a standard deduction, paid $34,000 in income taxes for federal last year. But on the 1099 side, they made 230,000 compared to 175. Their spouse still made 65. But you'll look down the list, and we were able to deduct $25,000 of business expenses. We purchased a car for them through the business, which was $35,000. There's something called a pass-through deduction that if you're self-employed, you're able to get. That was $34,000. They threw $20,000 in their retirement plan. Then we did a profit sharing match from the company of $40,500. So they basically saved $61,000 in retirement. So we whittled down their income to 104, and they paid $16,000 in taxes versus 34. Made more money, paid less taxes. Again, that's the name of the game. So now I'm done, Nat.
Thanks, Jeremy. Yeah, a lot of good, really good information. Yeah, and as I said at the beginning, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. We will, go through those after the presentation and then send out a follow-up, including the slides, so that you can look through this in some more detail, or at least at your convenience. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about foundation programs and why, as a student, you want to, know what the AANA Foundation does or how we can help you. There is assistance that we can provide to students. So let me go through some of what we do. So what you see here, this is all of the funding that has gone out over the years from the AANA Foundation, more than 5 million to over 4,200 individuals. A large chunk of this is to scholarships. 35% went directly to students for their education. We also fund posters and research grants, fellowships, also health policy research, which helps on the Hill and with state and federal regulatory issues to make sure that CRNAs are free to practice as free as possible. So again, a lot of really good funding goes out, but much of it goes to students. So let's go and dig a little bit deeper. So first, student scholarships. This is incredibly important, and I bet a number of you on the call have already applied or might have received funding in the past. But some key things to keep in mind here is there's over 80 scholarships available to all different types of students. There's some which are specific to certain states, some specific to certain programs. There's general scholarships open to everyone, a wide variety. And so I highly encourage everyone to check these out. They are available. They go up in January of each year, typically mid-January, and then the deadline for application will be March 1st each year. So I guess to give you an idea, most scholarships are $3,000 each. There's some that are more than that, but when you go to the application, you can select as many scholarships as you would qualify for. And then you'll have an opportunity to be awarded one of those. But it's, again, like I said, lots of different scholarships and lots of opportunities there. So please keep that in mind. All of our applications are at aanafoundation.com. So be sure to visit our website to check out all of our offerings.
And Nat, I think what you're saying is there's free money out there for you.
Yeah, it's free. Well, it's a little bit of work. You do have to fill out an application, but
well,
it's free money.
$3,000, I might do it.
Hey, can't hurt. Yeah, you never know. So this next program, this is the SEAS program, which has been around just a few years, but this is a Student Emergency Education Scholarship. And so this one's unique for students that are in crisis or financial hardship. So the goal here for our Board of Trustees was to try to help students that were close to the end of school if they ran into a situation where they had some sort of disaster, to help them get through it. So typically this will quickly get cash to that student so that they can continue their program and finish up. So again, it's highly important. If you know, you may not be in this situation, but if you know anyone that ends up in this situation, it's good to kind of have in the back of your mind that this funding is available. Again, this is anytime. There's no application date on this. It's as needed. So you apply as the need comes up. So also keep that one in mind. Really good program. Next, we have our poster sessions. So if you are doing research or if any of your colleagues are doing research, there's opportunities to present at AANA meetings. So we've got 3 different opportunities here. One is the Assembly of Didactic and Clinical Educators, which typically happens in February. The Mid-Year Assembly, and that's in DC in April. And then Annual Congress, which is coming up in August in Chicago. So this one is still open for Congress. If you have not yet submitted a poster to present, you still have about 9 days. So the deadline is not passed, but if you are doing research and you want to get it out there, you're definitely encourage you to apply for State of the Science. It's a really good opportunity. All right, so next, research grants. We have lots of opportunities for both CRNAs and SRNAs. Specifically for students, there is a student grant called the Dean Hayden Student Research and Evidence-Based Project Grant. And this one is offered a little bit more frequently than some of our other grants. This one is quarterly, and you can apply for it in March, June, September, and December. So again, if you're doing research and you need some funding to cover that research, it's there. So definitely check it out. We do have some other open submission grants. As you're graduating from school, if you find yourself getting the research bug and you want to, keep doing different types of research, maybe it's pain management, it could be, something related to peer assistance. I mean, there's lots of different topics that you could, cover with your research. So definitely check out all of those opportunities on our website. Moving along, this is a unique award that I just want to highlight because if you are doing research and you're a good researcher, there's a Program Administrator's Outstanding Student Research Award. So what this one does, it's your program administrator can give these out as many as they want. And it's really, they can recognize students in their program which have done outstanding work. So they may not be aware of this. I mean, a lot of program administrators, are doing research, but they may not realize this opportunity is there to recognize students. So again, it's on our website. Bring it to their attention if it's something that if you know someone in your program that's done good research and should be recognized, let your program administrator know about it. Okay, next. We have fundraising events that are a lot of fun, typically at ADCE and then also at Annual Congress. This one coming up, the Windy City Celebration will be in Chicago, which is where the AANA is headquartered. We're just outside of Chicago in Park Ridge. But this will be on Sunday, August the 14th. And so it will be food, drinks, dancing. And we do have discounted student tickets available if you're going to Congress. If you want to attend the full event, it's $125, or we have a dancing only option, which is $25, and you can come after 9 p.m. But they're a lot of fun. And so if you are attending Congress, definitely keep it in mind for sure. Okay, so I am not going to ask you for lots of money because that would be inappropriate. As a student, you're already paying lots of money to go to school and plus all of the time that you're putting into it. However, if you do feel that you would like to, give a little something to the foundation that would help, students, it would help CRNAs, it would help lots of individuals on the education and research side, you can make a gift. And we suggest $25 to be recognized in our annual reports as a student. And we have a special student section for those that make that donation. But yeah, like I said, it's a small gift. Don't break the bank. We definitely want you to save your money to pay off your loans. So, but anyway, yeah, absolutely consider donations in the future. Lastly, I just want to give you kind of the contact information here. If you have any questions at all related to anything the foundation does with students on the research side, education side, with scholarships, please reach out. There we've got our email address, our phone number. These are the staff members, a fairly small staff that do a lot of work. And so we're pictured here. And that's all I've got. Yeah, Jeremy, do you have any, I guess, parting comments before, yeah, we hang up? We stayed to a tight 45 minutes, which was what we were going for. So
We did.
Right on time.
I think I went over about a minute there at the end. I apologize for that. But
oh, no worries.
Nat, it's always a pleasure to do this with you. We've done a couple of these now, and I enjoy it. And you do such a great job. And I'll just tell you, the AANA Foundation staff is second to none. They're a wonderful group. They're small but mighty. They do a lot of work, as Nat said, and as the board looks upon all of them with gracious pleasure, because they do help us out a tremendous amount. So, Nat, I think that was great. We wish you all good luck in finishing up, and some of you are going to graduate soon, and some have a little longer, but stay the course. It's worth it in the end.
Yeah, it looks like Luann, you've got a quick comment.
My only comment is we have a lot of questions in the chat. I think, Nat, you said, did you say to this group that you'll plan to answer these questions? And
Correct. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, we did ask for, we asked for, I guess all of the questions to be kind of stashed in the chat, but those will be answered, and we'll have sort of an FAQ that will go out to all of the attendees, as well as the recording. So yeah, there's more to come.
Yeah, so I think people were asking, will they get a copy of the slides and everything? So they will get that, and
Yep.
we'll answer all the questions. And yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for your time. We'll let you get back to your studies. I know that the finals have to be approaching. But yeah, thank you all for spending this evening with us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank
Everybody
you.
have a good evening.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.